Why am I in a cornfield right now? This is not on the way to my dream job. The Spiritual Shitshow podcast with Suzanne Sooooooo, episode lucky number 13. Hello, you cute-ass motherfuckers, and welcome to the Spiritual Shitshow podcast, where we get into the funky town madness the healing and spiritual awakening journey can be. I'm your host, Suzanne Sooooooo, comedian, lifelong spiritual student, and I'm sharing some of the precious gems I've learned along my journey that have helped me and that I hope help you too. So, this is part 2 of our 3-part series and exploration into the universe's big mystery: what determines our reality and the course of our lives? Is it fate, free will, or is it totally fucking rando? We're gonna talk about it, talk about it, talk about it, talk about it. But first, a motherfucking recap. In part 1, we introduced the 3 musketeers: fate, free will, and totally fucking rando. And we started the conversation with the ideology of free will and the idea that we are the creators of our reality. I mean, we just got all up in it. You know, we laughed, we cried. It was better than cats. And I gave some very helpful and what I believe to be quite practical tips and tricks about manifestation. So that was soup's fun. And now we're here for part 2, and we're diving in to fate with a capital F. And that rhymes with F, which stands for fuck. Asking the question, so is everything predetermined? And if it is, who's doing the planning? God? The universe? Or is it Karen in accounting? But you know how I love looking up definitions. So when you ask me, well, what the fuck does the word fate mean? I've got you covered. So the word fate comes from the Latin fatum, meaning that which has been spoken. It originally referred to the pronouncements of the gods about a person's future. Over time, it evolved to represent the idea of a predetermined outcome or fixed sequence of events, often beyond human control. Okay, so then who's in charge? God? The universe? Or, I don't know, a squirrel with a clipboard? Because some days it does feel like that. Let's start with the heavy hitter, God. Now, depending on who you ask, God is either a loving parent guiding you gently through life, or a tough love coach who thinks your heartbreak is excellent character development. Or maybe God is a loving parent gently guiding you, but also can be a tough love coach / soccer mom when you're having a tough time. You got this, Billy! Just keep going! The Bible has a lot to say about this. Jeremiah 29:11 says, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord." Okay, cool, God, but is there any way you could at least email me the spreadsheet of the plans? Because right now, it feels like you're winging it. Then there's the universe, which is like God's chill cousin who doesn't like labels. The universe is like the cool, non-committal stepdad of spirituality. It doesn't show up to your piano recital, but it does send you angel numbers like 333 to remind you it cares. Sort of. People say the universe has a plan for you. Okay, cool, universe, but if that plan involves me losing my phone in an Uber again, could we just jump on a Teams meeting and chat about it? Now, what if fate isn't run by God or the universe? What if it's some intern who's 2 lattes deep and wildly underqualified? A guy named Chad in the cosmic planning department who is in charge of my life. And one day, while flipping through my file, he says, "Oh shit, I forgot Suzanne's career arc. Oh man, I cannot let the guys on the 7th floor hear about this. I'll never hear the end of it. Think, Chad, think. I've got it. I'll give her some comedy gigs, a couple of weird day jobs, and like 3 ex-boyfriends who ghost her." Whew, that took a lot out of me. I mean, I am exhausted. Who's ready for their afternoon latte? Chad is. Thank God for lattes. Fate is often depicted as an external force, whether divine, cosmic, or simply the result of causality, that determines what will happen and can sometimes be presented as the idea that certain events are meant to occur no matter what actions we take. So maybe we could say that fate is like a weird GPS where you plug in your life's destination, success, love, enlightenment, and fate says, got it. But instead of taking you on a straight, efficient path, it's like, let's take the scenic route and hit some potholes. How about we throw in a wrong turn for character development? And you're sitting there frustrated, like, why am I in a cornfield right now? This is not on the way to my dream job. Meanwhile, fate is sipping some matcha tea and smirking like, trust the process, darling. You'll thank me later. But let's give fate some credit. It's not all wrong turns and delayed blessings. Every once in a while, fate absolutely nails it. Like that one time you ended up at the perfect place at the perfect time and thought, how did I get here? That's fate smiling smugly from the wings, like, I told you I had this, darling. Now you might be like, okay, girl, I have a question. What about destiny? Is destiny the same as fate? Asking for a friend. All right, let's talk about it. Fate versus destiny. Okay, so while fate and destiny are often used interchangeably, they appear to have subtle differences in meaning and connotation. Fate often implies inevitability and suggests a lack of control, as if life is scripted and unavoidable. It can feel restrictive, as if no matter what you do, the outcome is fixed or fated. And destiny carries a sense of purpose or larger, meaningful goal. It implies the idea of a journey or path you're meant to walk, but does feel like it leaves room for free will to shape how you get there. So it feels more empowering, as though you have a role in fulfilling it. So metaphorically, fate is like being on the Chicago northbound Red Line train that randomly becomes an express to Howard. But you had your earbuds in while you were watching a video on your phone, so you didn't hear them announce it. But let's be real. Even if you didn't have earbuds in, you might not have caught it. I think they make those announcements into a Pringles can.
This train is going express to Harvard.
When you finally look up, you're wondering why the car is now empty and they're passing all the steps. And now your fate is to go to the Howard stop. But then you remember, hey, I have a friend who works at a cool lunch spot in Rogers Park who I haven't seen in a hot minute. Let me just go get a Sammy. And from that meeting, you guys decide to start your own successful lunch spot in Edgewater, and or you get food poisoning and never eat corned beef again. Ralph Waldo Emerson said, fate is nothing but the deeds committed in a prior state of existence. This idea connects fate to karma, suggesting it's shaped by our past actions rather than external forces. AKA, we did shit before that got us to where we are now, good and bad. German philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche concurred with the ancient Stoics when he said, amor fati, love your fate, is in fact your life. From a scientific perspective, Albert Einstein said, everything is determined, the beginning as well as the end, by forces over which we have no control. This is called determinism and is based on the idea that results are predetermined by universal and scientific laws. You know, like E equals MC squared. Or like when you put ketchup on a hot dog, you ruin it. Disclaimer, it's okay if it's a corn dog. So if everything is predetermined, does that mean we're just puppets? Does it mean we have no control? And if fate's doing it, why does it feel like I still have to take responsibility for my shitty decisions? Imagine telling your therapist, I am not responsible for anything I did this week. It was all fate. I'm pretty sure they might refer you to that one therapist at the practice who says, give me all the really hard cases. And then we have to ask, if life is predetermined, does that mean all the bad stuff, trauma, heartbreak, parking tickets, was meant to happen? Like, was it someone's master plan for me to step in dog shit on the same day I sent out an email about a meeting with all the wrong information to the entire company. And if fate is real, what's the customer service number? Because I'd like to give them a call. Hi there, can I exchange this toxic relationship storyline for a trip to Europe? Okay. Okay, now you might be thinking, all right already. You've beaten the hell out of this fate thing. What about the destiny thing? Girl, hold on to your lashes. I'm about to get to it. So, metaphorically, destiny is when you get a great idea for a podcast where you, a comedian, talk about all the shit you've learned on your healing and spiritual journey that has helped you not end up completely fucked up and being the lady at the end of the bar on a Tuesday at 11:30 a.m., passed out drunk with her head in her lunch special. And no shade if that's you passed out on the meatloaf. But if it is you, get help, girl, and go to a meeting. Anyways, by making this said podcast, you find great fulfillment and purpose and receive some really cool feedback from people telling you they're getting a lot of cool insights and a lot of laughs out of it. And that just gives you the warm and fuzzies. Anywho, so destiny is basically this. You're striving to reach a destination, aka dream or goal, and following your heart. And destiny is exactly where that striving leads you. William Shakespeare said, "It is not in the stars to hold our destiny, but in ourselves." Showing up to life and for yourself with courage and an open heart and open mind, even if it is sometimes scary, will lead you to your destiny. So it seems with destiny, we may have some influence in the whole thing, but obs, not on exactly where our striving takes us because, you know, how tricksy life is. When we talk about the idea that life is predetermined, we have to mention everyone's two favorite cute-ass phrases. It was meant to be. And everything happens for a reason. People love saying it was meant to be, especially after some horrible shit happens. Oh, you didn't get the job? Don't worry. It wasn't meant to be. Well, cool. But that's not really helpful in the moment when the rent is due, Brenda. This phrase is basically fate's PR team, smoothing over life's train wrecks. But what does meant to be even mean? That the universe wanted me to get a flat tire in the Taco Bell drive-thru? Maybe. Maybe getting that flat tire at the Taco Bell drive-thru was the last straw that got you to stop eating Taco Bell. Or maybe when you got that flat tire, it caused you to stop long enough to see the for hire sign in the window and you got a job. But who knows, right? And what about everything happens for a reason? This one's like the spiritual equivalent of, don't worry, darling. This painful experience is all part of the plan. Okay, but is it a good plan? I mean, could I take a quick peek at it? So, what is the reason for things happening? Do we decide what the reason is? Or does something random happen and we say, Eureka! Now I know the reason that thing happened. Carl Jung, the psychology OG, believed in those kinds of synchronicities, those weird coincidences that feel too perfect to be random. Like when you're thinking about an old friend and they text you out of the blue. Jung would call that fate winking at you. Well, you know, fate. I generally avoid temptation unless I can't resist it. Ancient Greek philosopher Epictetus said, "Men are not disturbed by things, but by the view they take of them." And Viktor Frankl, Holocaust survivor, psychologist, and author of Man's Search for Meaning, said, "Life is never made unbearable by circumstances, but only by lack of meaning and purpose." So essentially, if life doesn't give you a reason something happens, it's up to you to find one. Oh, so great. So now, not only do I have to deal with my problems, I also have to turn them into a fucking TED Talk? Thanks, fate. Philosopher Soren Kierkegaard once said, "Life can only be understood backwards, but it must be lived forwards." So, yeah, maybe you can look back on your breakup 5 years from now and think, that was the best thing that ever happened to me. But in the moment, it just feels like fate is beating you with a cactus. Now, I can't talk about fate or the idea that our lives are predetermined without talking about the famous saying of many spiritual ideologies that goes, "Not my will, but thy will. Some people believe in a divine will because they've had experiences they interpret as guided by a higher power, moments of synchronicity, inexplicable protection, or inner peace during crises. These experiences, while deeply personal, feel so profound they often become the bedrock of their faith. A sudden sense of clarity or purpose might feel like being beckoned to a higher calling. Some argue that the complexity and interconnectedness of the universe point to a higher intelligence. For example, the fine-tuned conditions that allow life to exist suggest that there might be a guiding will behind it all. Others ask, if there's no divine will, then why does life so often seem to unfold with purpose or meaning, especially in hindsight? Even challenges often appear in retrospect to have led to growth or transformation. The belief in a thy will is carried by faith. Well, what's faith? Girl, you know I looked that shit up. Faith is a belief that is not based on proof. The confidence or trust in a person or thing or ideology, a belief in God, or in certain doctrines and spiritual teachings. Even if the existence of thy will isn't provable, believing it can provide significant benefits. Believing in thy will can give life a sense of meaning, especially during difficult times. It allows people to see challenges as part of a greater plan, making suffering more bearable. For instance, losing a job might feel devastating, but faith in thy will reframes it as an opportunity for something better. Believing in a divine will often comes with the belief that a higher power cares deeply about your life. This sense of being loved unconditionally, even in your messiest moments, can bring profound comfort and strength. It reduces the pressure to control everything. If you trust that a higher power has your back, you can let go of the endless mental loop of what ifs and focus on what's in front of you. Believing your story is part of a divine plan for the world can cause you to feel you are an important part of the whole. The idea of not my will but thy will boils down to surrender, trust, and humility. It reminds us that we're not alone in the chaos and that even our worst moments can hold meaning. And while not everyone embraces this idea, for some, it is transformative. Now, although I have found that many of the teachings of Jesus fall into the free will or we create our own reality category, there is a very powerful thy will moment in his story. It's gotten quite dicey for him, and Roman soldiers are on the hunt. So he prays, Father, if you are willing, remove this cup from me. Nevertheless, not my will, but yours be done. Once he's spoken these words and the story continues to unfold in the direction it's already been going in, which means curtains for him, he recognizes that thy will has been communicated and accepts his fate willingly. When he decides to follow his belief and feeling of what God's will is for him, this moment in his story powerfully communicates the necessity of his part as a human being to say yes to that reality in order for it to be carried out all the way to its fulfillment of the resurrection. Viktor Frankl observed that survivors of extreme hardship often endured because they believed their suffering had a purpose. Faith in a divine will can similarly motivate people to keep going when they might feel like giving up. If you would like to try a thy will approach, you can do a daily surrender practice. Start your day with a simple intention. I surrender my plans and trust that what is meant for me will come. This helps shift your mindset from control to flow. Trust the timing. When things don't go your way, practice saying, I don't know why this happened, but I trust that it's leading somewhere good. Look for signs. Stay open to synchronicities and unexpected opportunities. They're often where divine will reveals itself. The idea of divine will isn't about abandoning effort or responsibility. It's about trusting that there's a bigger picture we can't always see. Even if thy will cannot be proven, belief in a divine will shifts your perspective and brings peace, resilience, and meaning to life's inevitable chaos. So, now that we've talked about all these different facets of the ideology of fate, what do you think? Is fate at the helm? Is the universe or God or Chad from the cosmic planning department 100% in charge of everything that occurs in our lives? And we just need to let the strings be pulled and go along with it? Or are we at the helm as the magic makers of our lives? I think it could be somewhere in the middle. So let's look at how these concepts might be able to interplay and guide us to live intentionally and meaningfully while staying open to life and divine intervention. Thy will reflects surrender to a higher power, divine guidance, or the flow of life. It's about trusting that there's a greater plan or wisdom at work, even when we don't fully understand it. And free will is the ability to make choices and take action. It's about exercising autonomy in how we respond to life's circumstances, guided by our values, desires, and understanding. And creating our reality is the belief that our thoughts, emotions, and intentions shape our experiences. It emphasizes the power of mindset, focus, and deliberate action to influence outcomes. The key to integrating these ideas lies in the concept that we are co creating our lives. Think of life as a dance between your individual will and the bigger divine will. You're not a passive observer, nor are you completely in control. Instead, you're an active participant aligning your actions with the flow of life. Like you might set the intention to pursue your dream career, your will. But if obstacles or unexpected opportunities arise, your intuition might hint to you that they're part of a bigger plan, thy will. So your role is to navigate these changes with as much grace and adaptability as you can and keep an open mind. And while thy will might guide the overall flow of life, free will determines how you will show up in each moment. You can choose to resist and struggle, or you can embrace challenges as opportunities for growth. While I was putting this podcast together, I had a major light bulb moment when it occurred to me that those of us who may have grown up in environments that felt traumatic, unsafe, overwhelming, or difficult may actually have this outlook reversed, meaning I'm so aware of the fear I feel that tells me I have to try to control my outer environment and outer circumstances so I'll feel safe or get my needs met or desires fulfilled. And that feels so all consuming because it is, of course, an impossible task that the idea of simply paying attention to myself and how I respond to life feels like it's not enough and will put me in a vulnerable position. And I thought that is probably a really good insight in which to begin a daily surrender practice. The idea that we create our reality doesn't have to mean we control every detail of life. Instead, it emphasizes that our inner world, thoughts, emotions, and beliefs directly influences our experiences of the outer world. By aligning your intentions with higher values and trusting divine timing, you're creating a reality that feels aligned with both your will and thy will. Number two, focusing on what you can control. Like if you're navigating a health challenge, you can use free will to follow treatments, practice self care, and maintain a positive mindset. And at the same time, you surrender the ultimate outcome, trusting that it's a part of a larger process. Number three, use challenges as a mirror. Like if a door closes, a job rejection, a breakup, ask yourself, what is this teaching me? How can I respond in a way that aligns with my highest good? Number four, practice active surrender. Author and Buddhist teacher Thich Nhat Hanh said, do your best and then let go. Leave the results to life. Number five, balance inner work with outer action. Like you want to start a business. Use free will to research, plan, and take steps. Simultaneously, stay open to unexpected opportunities or shifts that might lead you to an even better outcome than you envisioned. Think of life as a river. The current represents thy will, the larger flow that's carrying you toward your destiny. Free will is your ability to paddle. You can choose to fight the current, paddle upstream, or flow with it while steering toward your goals. And the reality you create depends on how skillfully you can navigate whether you're clinging to control or trusting the river to guide you. And disclaimer, that is a skill we have to learn how to do because, girl, going with the flow just doesn't come like that. So, baby steps, babe. I mean, sometimes I'm in that river hanging onto a branch for dear life. Living with thy will, free will, and the belief that we create our reality isn't about picking one over the others. It's about weaving them together into a balanced approach. Trust the flow, but paddle your boat. Set intentions, but stay open. Take action, but let go of the outcome. In the end, life isn't about solving the mystery, it's about embracing the dance. Eat, Pray, Love author Elizabeth Gilbert says, "There's so much about my fate that I cannot control, but other things do fall under my jurisdiction. I can decide how I spend my time, whom I interact with, whom I share my body and my life and my money and energy with. I can select what I read and eat and study. I can choose how I'm going to regard unfortunate circumstances in my life, whether I will see them as curses or opportunities. I can choose my words and the tone of voice in which I speak to others. And most of all, I can choose my thoughts." Hermann Hesse wrote in the book Siddhartha, "I have always believed and still believe that whatever good or bad fortune may come our way, we can always give it meaning and transform it into something valuable." Y'all, I am loving this series and this conversation. So stay tuned for part 3 of Life, Fate, Free Will, or Totally Fucking Rando series when we talk about the Totally Fucking Rando. So buckle up. All right, anyway, this has been the Spiritual Shit Show podcast, and I literally could not physically love you more. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you on the next one. Roll it, you motherfucker. Or roll it right now, you motherfucker.